Welcome to Coleman Report Live. I'm Bob Coleman, and we're talking Main Street and the small business lenders who help it grow. Lance Sexton, thank you for joining us. I understand you're in a moving. You've added to the stress of interesting times, but you decided to move.
Well, Bob, you can't pick and choose when you sell a piece of real estate, and I feel real fortunate that the real estate that I sold, but then comes the putting things in boxes, which I'm going to share a story that tells how weak I am. I packed my office, Bob, and my wife had been encouraging me to engage professional packers. After packing my office, I'm on the phone. Hey, can y'all come pack me?
That's what teenage boys are good for as well. Hey, Chris Hearn, founder, CEO out of Orlando. Chris, your numbers are amazing. What are you up to in volume? I saw. I just checked that. I mean, you guys are doing gangbusters down there.
Yeah, we're doing well. We should be over 7,500 PPP loans by the end of today, and I think we'll get to 8,100, 8,200, something like that by a couple weeks from now when we shut everything down, assuming it doesn't get extended again, which it probably will.
Great. We have Chris on Tuesdays to talk about the lender perspective. So, Chris, thank you very much for joining us. I appreciate it. Let's go to the poll questions. Oh, by the way, Joseph, go back. I assume everyone knows, but the certificate is there. Go ahead and download that. This does count for training. Okay. You should be keeping track of all these. Okay. Have you contacted your congressional representatives about changes you would like to see about PPP? Your two senators and your Congress person. And this is sort of, Chris, is sort of the conversation of eat your vegetables, floss your teeth. But right. It's got to be done. It's got to be done.
Yeah, I think it's if you're in the industry and you haven't done this yet, it's time to get off your butt and do it because this is our livelihood. You know, we're involved with government guaranteed loans, and obviously a lot of the folks on this webinar have been slaving away doing PPP loans for months. And your perspective counts. Your perspective matters. And those folks in Washington need to hear from us because you all are on the front lines. They do. Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Go ahead, Lance.
Even if the only phone call you make is encouraging easier forgiveness for small PPP loans, if that's all you tell them, that's going to have a positive impact because they need to hear that.
That's right.
And then you don't have to do fundraisers for these people. But I would, next time you have a ribbon cutting ceremony, be sure and invite them and say, hey, I just want to let you know we funded this loan out of Ocala. And it protects X amount of jobs. So
they do love that. They love to be at ribbon cutting ceremonies.
And remember, every year staff, these are young, I guess I can use the word kids. They're young kids. Staff turns over every year and you have to retrain them.
That's right.
So, but they do want your feedback. It's not where the DMV where they go, oh, great. They'll whenever we go back on the specifically USDA, they'd love to have the feedback from the lenders. They want to know what the lending community is. Also, this is huge. They deal with the trade organizations all day long. They they get the canned letters. They want to talk to people who have boots on the ground, who are actively lending the money and are helping their constituents. So you do have a voice.
I would really echo that point you just made, Bob, because I literally had that conversation late last week with some senators' offices, and that's exactly what they said. They said, we'd like to hear from you because you do this daily. The trade associations are one thing, but we feel like it's filtered and sanitized somewhat. But when we hear directly from you, we really feel like we're getting through to a whole nother level of understanding. And I think that's important. And everybody on this webinar can do the same thing.
Yeah. Very good. Okay. Enough of the preaching. But we think it's important. By the way, 29% said yes, 67% said no. Do you attend the SBA 7A quarterly Connect calls? We have attached the July call PowerPoint. I believe it was in the email. It is in the dashboard. And, good. I'm glad to hear that. 65% say yes, 33% say no. and there's good information there. Last about 2 hours, and they get all the division heads, all the chiefs talking about 7A. There's also one for 504.
That's right. Yep.
This is a great, the Quarterly Connect calls are a great way to just keep on top. Just like participating in a Coleman webinar, this is another way to enhance your training.
Finally, your construction credit box, expanding, decreasing, we're about the same. Chris, what do you think the answer is going to be?
Pretty certain it's going to be decreasing.
Yeah.
But I've been wrong on things before. We'll see.
No, I think you're right. There you are. Oh, same, 51% decreasing, 38 expanding, 11. So only 1 in 10 of you are being more aggressive in terms of expanding that credit box, and everyone else is saying, well, let's be prudent. This is where we are today. Lance, I guess Treasury came out with some guidance this morning, and I know you read through it. Tell us real quick what it said.
There really wasn't anything exciting and new. It is a good read for everybody who participated in PPP because it does throw out scenarios for forgiveness in different expense categories and answers the question yes or no. You know, an example is if a borrower incurred payroll expense prior to the covered period but paid it during the covered period, would it be forgiven? And the answer is yes. And, you know, it has other questions like if they incurred payroll expense during the covered period but paid it after the covered period, would it be forgiven? And the answer is yes. So, I mean, it goes through a lot of scenarios that PPP borrowers will go through and considering what should be forgiven, and gives you yes, no answers and a little bit of detail behind that. There was nothing groundbreaking, Bob, nothing new that I saw, but it definitely is a great read for all of us that were involved in PPP, and especially those that are going to be involved in PPP forgiveness, because we all get those phone calls daily. I know Chris probably gets a million of them. You know, this is what I'm doing. Is it going to be forgiven? And this helps us to give better informed answers.
Very good. Chris, do we know, we're still waiting for final guidance on what to do with this stuff. Do we know when that's going to come out?
We don't. All we know is that the portal is supposed to open on the 10th and seems to be getting a lot of traction on Capitol Hill on forgiving things less than the $150,000. So while they released it today, as the three of us all know, it could be revised here in the next few days or weeks.
Yeah, and then there's more to come.
Yes.
I've gone on record saying I think it'll be done before the recess, which is this weekend.
That's right.
Hector Barreto yesterday in our show said it's going to be done, but he's not optimistic it will be done before they go on recess. It's going to hold over till September. So hopefully I'm right and Hector's wrong. In fact, Hector said he hopes I'm right as well.
I hope you're right too. Wow. If this goes until September, it's going to be rough on the.
Yeah, well, now we're speculating, but put it this, Chris, I agree with you. It's a hot topic. Everything that's passed in the past has been bipartisan,
right.
And while there's nipping and there's complaining and there's griping, at the end of the day, it's going to be another bipartisan vote. Lance,
and it's pretty clear from what I've read and what I've heard from people in Washington that the PPP part of it is still pretty, you know, there's full support for taking care of that. The points they're arguing on, most of it's related to the expanded unemployment benefit. You know, it's like I said yesterday, Chris, I wish they could just pull the PPP part out and do it separate and pass it, but it doesn't appear that they're going to do that.
No, they like to Christmas tree everything, as you know, Lance. So they're putting it all together, and you know, you got to eat your broccoli with all of it, right?
Well, and the other thing that Bob and I talked about, Chris, you know, the portal is supposed to open on the 10th, but it said subject to
Right. Yeah.
changes in the PPP forgiveness process. So if it doesn't open on the 10th, don't be surprised.
That's right. Yep. I agree.
We got a question from Chris. Please give more information on the quarterly calls. Here's the issue with that. We don't publicize them because SBA is maxed. There's this, and they've been pushing those maxes. So they're I don't know how they're managing that. What I would suggest, Chris, is go ahead and talk to your local district office and get on the mailing list and do it that way. But I do know that there's been issues on hitting that. I think it's 500, Lance. What do you know what it is offhand?
I'm not sure, Bob. I'm not sure.
Hey, 7A volume is down. 504 is up. I'm not too concerned about 7A being down because all those borrowers obviously are going to PPP. My question to Chris and Lance is, if we have so much volume in PPP, will that translate into additional 7A borrowing into 2021?
I think it will, particularly with some of the proposals that they've got in terms of enhancing the 7A program, because I think once we get past PPP and we're saving payrolls and some other operating expenses, you're still going to have a lot of working capital needs to try to get through the recovery efforts. And I've been saying that for a while, but I don't see that this is going to be a snapback recovery anytime soon, certainly not for the next 6 months, which means you're going to have a lot of interest in working capital 7As. You can have a lot of interest in business debt consolidation, refinances. You're always going to have interest in business acquisitions, of course, and partner buyouts. But I would see that 7A is going to be a big engine of the recovery efforts going forward.
I see a lot of, I know there's new banks that are getting involved, and the ability to, the experience that they've had with SB and the PPP, while not perfect, this is pretty easy, pretty seamless. And so the banks are going to, who haven't been involved with 7A in the past, will embrace it, as well as the borrowers. Now, when you say SBA, you go, oh, that was that PPP loan. Yeah, that wasn't too bad.
Well, SBA certainly is at the tip of everyone's tongue now, which it hasn't always. I mean, you guys have been through the same thing I have. You know, you're telling your friends, yeah, I mostly work on SBA. Well, what's that? I think I get less and less of that. If I say, oh, that's that program I read about in the newspaper or I see on Google all the time. So
That's right.
the other thing I wanted to point out about 7A volume in 2021, there are businesses that have come through this pandemic and found that have improved and increased during the pandemic that are going to be coming out of this looking to grow. There are going to be opportunities with that as we get toward 2021 as well.
Fortunately, there's winners and losers in all these crises, and I feel really sad for the losers, especially the restaurant owners. I mean, that's tough.
I think also on the stats that you've got there, Bob, I would expect that 504 will probably continue that kind of volume for a little bit.
Rates, Chris? What are the rates?
Yeah, wow, they're sub 3% for the 20 or 25-year debenture, so it's a substantial deal. But the SBA is also recently, I think it was actually late last week or early this week, has relaxed some of the debt refi requirements on 504. So I think, again, you're going to see a lot of people being a little more opportunistic about.
We've been remiss. We didn't cover that. Real quick, give a synopsis of what those changes are.
Well, usually with a 504 refi, you've got to show at least 12 months of consistent payment, on-time payment. They're relaxing that in light of what's happened over the last 4 or 5 months due to COVID, the pandemic, in terms of if you've got any deferrals on your loans. That's not really a ding necessarily right now. I think you're going to see probably in some future legislation coming up in the next month or two, I think you're going to see some more expanded opportunities for 504 financing. Just accelerated. I think you're going to see, particularly smaller SBA 504s. I think there's going to be an accelerated approval process. It wouldn't shock me. I mean, there's a bit of a movement afoot to bring back FMLP, which some of us were involved with about 10 years ago, where there was a slight guarantee on the first lien piece of of 504s, obviously that would help create a secondary market in that product and move a lot of these assets, producing a lot of liquidity for the lenders. So I think there's a lot more to occur, but I think in general, 504 is in a good place right now because of how low the interest rates are.
And what I'd like is, again, it's bipartisan. Both sides of the aisle are embracing it. Both sides of the aisle seem to have gotten the memo, hey, if we take care of Main Street, we take care of employees, and that's going to turn our economy around. Hey, Chris is a guest author from time to time with Forbes. You had an article hit this morning, Chris. What you talk about?
I haven't even seen it yet that it hit this morning. It was supposed to be a couple more days, but yeah, I talked a little bit about some of the proposals that are upcoming and really kind of finish the article with some suggestions because we don't really know. Everything's such a fluid environment right now in terms of what's ultimately going to come out of Washington. But I'm pretty sure that if you want to get a second draw PPP loan or P4, whatever we end up calling it, you're definitely going to have to demonstrate your revenue reductions, whether it be 20%, 30%, 50%, what have you. You're going to have to be able to show whether it's internally prepared profit and loss statements or tax returns. You're going to have to be able to show the lender so that they can run that calculation, number one. The second is it's going to be pretty important. Even though the IRS gave everyone an extension on their tax return filings, it's going to be pretty important, I think, for most lenders to look at 2019 tax returns, whether business or personal. So I think if I could recommend that to clients, to borrowers, applicants, I think that's something that they ought to look into. And the last one that you've got here is the bullet, which is they got to make sure that their payroll records are up to date, because I have a feeling there's going to be some consideration of that on the second draw PPP loans and or if they do this enhanced 7A product that they're talking about doing as well. I don't expect second draw PPP loans to be quite the processing concerns that for the first PPP were. In fact, I suspect you're going to have to, as a client, as a borrower, you're going to have to show that you've actually got your initial PPP loan. Maybe you have to show your note. You may not have to use the same lender, okay, which I think might be better because there's some lenders that frankly don't have the liquidity to make a second round PPP loan right now, which they should probably be thinking about selling some of their PPP loans. There's also some lenders who are just done. They're finished with PPP. They want to move on. And obviously, all of us are still going to want to see those small businesses get help to get the funds they need, particularly if they've gotten such dramatic revenue reductions.
Good summary. Again, to put this into context, we're waiting for the forgiveness guidelines from SBA for PPP. We're waiting for, and this is now over in Congress, a PPP4, a additional stimulus funding. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. So their changes are continuing. The support in Congress for Main Street is strong, and that's good. That's good for Main Street, guys.
Absolutely.
Let's see. A couple of questions were being held over. This one's from Russell. This was from last week. It said, you stated that no supporting documents needed to be provided for loans less than 150. I assume you meant this would be the case if new legislation law for that. The answer is yes, Russell.
Yeah.
But everything, I know no one in Congress who says, oh, we're not going to go 150. It's going to happen. It's just a matter. David asked if a borrower is returned to regular servicing status. Servicing question for Lance. Due to compliance with loan payments workout provisions, should CARES Act debt relief payments by the SBA be made? We just return such a loan to regular servicing status with a modified payment plan. Lance?
The CARES Act payments are for loans that are in regular servicing. It would not, if they went through a workout agreement, performed as agreed in the written workout plan, and were returned to regular servicing, they should be eligible for CARES Act payments.
Great.
Now, Bob, I can't say that with 100% certainty. I responded to this by email. In reading the legislation, they should qualify. You may want to reach out to your district office and just double check with your district office on that. But according to what I read, they should be eligible if they're in regular service.
Tomorrow we're hosting a webinar on the construction financing in these difficult times. Specifically, SBA wants you to do a couple things in addition to the regular underwriting memos. So we'll go through that and what SBA wants. In fact, SBA wants these in all credit memos. So we'll discuss that. And we have the other dates tend to be a little in flux. We're hoping to be able to do the loan forgiveness next week. But we'll know that by Friday. And then we're doing our 159 rules and cash. Okay. John, that's a long question. I'll hold it over for tomorrow. So thank you very much. I'm not going to throw that at these guys. Hey, thank you for joining us today for Coleman Report Live and for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time. Talk to you tomorrow. Thanks.
Have a great day.
Take care, everybody.